Should work. Okay, it says we are now live. James, how are you this morning?
Okay, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I've been running around like crazy. If you checked out my last minute seat of the pants show title today, I am calling it Judge Likes Facebook Infection with the FTC-DOJ virus. And that is nuts, right?
Well,
What
you know
has
the
happened?
rule,
Let me try to explain what has happened.
right? You'll have to explain it, but you know the rule with appellate, or even at the when it comes to legal issues at the trial level, they'll try and avoid the bigger, wider issue if they can. And it sounds like when it comes to a legal issue,
Well, so
trying to avoid.
let's back up a little. And first of all, I think I gotta turn your volume up in some way because I can't hear you that well. Let me see what I got going here.
Oh my. Let me make
Okay,
sure.
okay, I think that should be better, at least for me.
Okay,
People,
better.
people over at YouTube can tell me how your sound is. We got a few people filing in. Oh, and thank you, those of you who are already hitting the like over there at YouTube. You are very, very helpful because as I talked about on Wednesday, I am getting close to qualifying for monetization and therefore the toy of Super Chat over at Facebook. I am very much looking forward to that toy. Anyway, so let's back up. So last year, the United States FTC filed this case against Facebook in which it made allegations about Facebook violating user privacy and violating the law by doing various nefarious things, right? So that was the allegations. And what they did is they ended up getting into negotiations with Facebook, and Facebook and the FTC reached a so-called consent order decree. And what they have to do in order for that to go into effect is they go before a judge. And so they had to release this publicly. Let us all take a look at what this consent order is between the FTC, the government, and Facebook. And then, of course, it went before a judge. And when I read this order, what was apparent to me right away is that it looks like it's going to give the government access to Facebook user data without a warrant. So warrantless access to Facebook user data where it never has any probable cause or particularized suspicion about any Facebook user doing anything wrong. This is all about Facebook's alleged misconduct, right?
Right.
And
Not its
given,
users.
yeah. And so given my particular interest and research that I've done for, a long, long time now, I wanted to highlight those issues, right?
Right.
And so what I wanted to do is go ahead and file an amicus brief in the case before the court and urge the court not to approve this consent order because I think this is a big step towards Big Brother. Now, besides the fact that it gives this access to the FTC and the DOJ in the order, it also installs all sorts of people into Facebook's corporate governance. I can say that 12 times fast, corporate governance structure. And so this is why I say Facebook is now infected with the FTC DOJ virus, because what the order does, besides from my personal interest, giving warrantless access to Facebook user data, it also installs government sympathetic people into Facebook corporate governance structure, which of course I think enhances the risk that the Facebook user data could be used by government and that this is a major step towards Big Brother. I mean, what is Big Brother? It's Facebook melded with government. What are you getting under this order? You are getting a further melding and entwining of government
So
with Facebook.
under the guise of protecting Facebook users. So under the guise of Facebook's misuse of data, there were a couple of big cases, right, where they misused data.
Right.
So under the guise of protecting the consumer, they're going to have the government in there checking, government cronies in there checking how Facebook uses its data, which of
Right.
course, per force, must give it access to whatever data they think Facebook is abusing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
And there's a lot of broad language. Anyway, if you want to read about my history with this case, you go to legalizeprivacy.org, legalizeprivacy.org. That is the Center for Legalization of Privacy, which is my nonprofit startup that I went ahead and got together with some other interested people and put together last year so that we could go ahead and file a brief in this case. Earlier, the year before, when there was the Carpenter case, which is also on point for my interest, trying to prevent government from getting warrantless access to data shared with third parties, not just Facebook, but generally. I've been interested in this for a long time. And so I wanted to work on the Carpenter case, and I had talked with some people at some, sort of libertarian, non-leftist public interest litigation firms that are awesome. I mean, these are good people, but this is not their particular interest. And in fact, it seems to be that if you have an interest in privacy in the public interest litigation space, if your interest is privacy, all of them are leftist, right? So, again, talking about this morning's order, this morning's order in the Facebook versus United States versus Facebook case, what the judge did is the judge went ahead and ratified this consent between Facebook and the government. Again, allowed the FTC and the DOJ to install itself to infect Facebook's corporate governance structure to the detriment, I believe, of our privacy interests. The whole opinion by the judge was expressing sympathy, not with my particular concern, which is a Fourth Amendment style concern that protects individual citizens. Instead, what the judge expressed sympathy for were the arguments from Epic. Epic is a leftist public interest, privacy-oriented organization, okay? And their whole take on this was that the government isn't being hard enough on Facebook. There needs to be more strict enforcement and harsher penalties on Facebook. And they never brought up any Fourth Amendment concerns that had to do with government enforcement of a so-called consent decree in this case. It was just Facebook isn't getting it hard enough. Facebook is big and bad and horrible and awful.
So I guess, like with the governor of New Jersey, the Constitution is above this judge's pay grade.
Well, and okay, so this is the thing when I'm groggy-eyed this morning and stuff, and this all happens on East Coast because it's the district court in DC.
Right.
And so I wake up, to this and it's like, okay, I'm not going to look at this until I meditate. And then I meditate and then I look at this. But first look was still before coffee though. So I had my priorities, meditation, then I look at this, then I don't have my, then I get coffee. First look, I was thinking that he was sympathetic with the arguments presented by all the amici, the amicus briefs, and of which my organization was one of them. And mine, of course, was the only one that focused on Fourth Amendment concerns. But then when you go ahead and read the whole thing, he mentions that it's only some amici that presented the sort of claims that he was sympathetic with. And that was Epic and some of the other people who were making those types of arguments. Oh, you're not hard enough on Facebook. But his take was that this is Congress's job, not his as a lowly job. He's a judge, deference. The drill, right?
Right.
And then he was saying, well, technically I still have jurisdiction over this, so don't worry, I'll still be looking at it. But again, not from Fourth Amendment perspective.
Right.
Now, he did mention in one sentence, and I'm going to do a formal write-up on this later. I'm so sorry I haven't had time yet, but I'm just skimming this thing and looking. It's like for any hint.
You barely had time.
I have other things going on too in this crazy time right now. But there is a sentence in which he mentions that the FTC and the DOJ have access to extensive data in order to enforce this decree. So he does mention this. He's aware of the access, but he also cites in the same sentence the purpose of the access. And he is arguably, it's equivocal. The language is equivocal. He's flagging it. Now, he mentions in there that Epic, and I guess anybody else, could have still recourse in suing the FTC. And what I'm looking at right now,
And
is, you know,
and could you sue the?
well, who
I was
knows? Who
about
knows,
to
right?
say,
I don't,
since he basically rubber stamped the
could
agreement of
we
the
is really the
parties.
question. Could we all as Facebook
Right.
users sue the
Ah.
FTC? So
Okay.
this is what we're looking at, right?
But in
But
effect, the judge rubber stamped the agreement between these parties.
he rubber
So
stamped it under protest, but his protest was only by emphasis and explicitly because of the concerns raised by Epic, not because of
right.
my concerns about the
So
Fourth Amendment issues. There's one sentence in there that's equivocal, and that's it.
so because
So
of that, though, the parties won't be appealing this. It will take someone else
the
like it.
parties say in the agreement that they will not appeal it.
Right. Exactly. Oh, it's
Yes.
even in the agreement. So then that's that.
Yeah.
So it
And
requires.
this is what another thing I was going to say. In
Yeah.
the agreement, it also says that a lot of these things are going to take place, quote, without further leave of court. So whereas Judge Kelly says, oh, you know, don't worry, the judge, I'm still going to keep my eye on this.
Mm-hmm.
In the language of the agreement, it says he's got only so much power. And once he ratifies that, in effect, he's
He
silenced
loses
himself.
jurisdiction. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Well, once his job is completed, he loses jurisdiction, and presumably now someone else can sue. Presumably now we would take Epic or maybe a class action suit of Facebook users or something.
Something. And, you know, again, my Center for Legalization of Privacy
Right.
is already on the case where I'm already figuring out what are the next steps to try to do something about this. So if you do want to join me in this fight, go to legalizeprivacy.org. There's information there about how to donate. I'm going to put a more formal post there later today, actually quoting the specific passages that I was just talking about.
Right.
But in essence, what you have there is you have a judge saying, oh gosh, I'm wringing my hands. I can't really do anything about this. But the things that he's worried about are not explicitly in the
Well, that's really
order.
funny because in
My
effect,
privacy concerns
yeah,
are my Fourth Amendment concerns. He's more concerned about the type of arguments that Epic makes,
he
that the
punted.
government isn't being hard enough on them.
The judge punted, like cowardly judges do. They try and avoid
And
legal
we
issues,
don't know why,
especially
you know.
constitution. If they can avoid it, they'll avoid the constitutional issue. They're expert punters. But this guy, what I find astonishing is that this is actually an agreement between the executive branch of the government and a big corporation. And he's saying that this doesn't raise any Bill of Rights concern effectively. Like you say, he may have been a little equivocal, but he didn't turn anything on it. He didn't say, well, let's analyze. Here's my Fourth Amendment analysis, you know, which
No
is
no, he didn't even touch Fourth Amendment stuff.
right, right.
Yeah.
There's a
No.
right to privacy.
And this
It's a
is why
fundamental
we
right.
have this title. Yeah.
Right.
We have
And
this title that, you know, it's infected now. Facebook is infected with the FTC-DOJ.
exactly. You with your amicus brief, you rang the bell really hard, right? We have a right to privacy that the Supreme Court has recognized. It's a fundamental right. And this guy didn't even basically analyze it.
To his credit,
right.
he told both the government and Facebook that they had to respond to the arguments presented by all the amicus briefs. And so they had to respond to mine.
Right.
The government spent a lot more time responding to mine than Facebook
They seem
did.
to think it mattered a little more, right?
Well, they, you know, they know better that they need to explain themselves.
Yeah.
I have the urge to flip them off right now. There's going to be some, no, there's going to be some under protest action from me on Facebook that you're going to see, probably in the form of a cover photo or something. And we're all going to have to follow suit because essentially, I think what you want to do going forward, if you're going to stay on Facebook, is, you know, give a big notice to any FTC or DOJ people who think that they now have the right to traipse into your data on
my
Facebook.
Messages and my photographs.
Oh yeah.
It's not just my posts,
I'm
right?
already formulating the messages that I'm going to send to my private message recipients.
If I make a public post on Facebook, especially if the privacy setting is public, well, that's one thing. I'm definitely broadcasting it to all the world. But if it's not even a post, if it's a private message with my friend or a photograph just a photograph I've deleted in the past, they could have access to all that. So, that's disturbing.
Now there may be a window where if you wanted to go in there and wipe out your Facebook account now, you could. And
everyone should go back and police their account.
Well, or, you know, I mean, it all depends. Everybody's got their individual situation, right? So me being there and vocally protesting them, and then also one thing that I'm going to probably do is get involved in a different social network called Parlay.
Hmm.
And I've got some news about that I'll talk about in a bit and stuff. So I'm checking that out right now in reaction to this. But no, I think sort of being there, being under protest, certainly not going to give Facebook as much of my business, because remember, Facebook had a choice.
Hmm.
Facebook had a choice.
Right.
Facebook could have chosen
Oh, they could
not to
fund.
allow the FTC and the DOJ
Oh, they
to
could have
get
funded it in
infected,
different ways.
instilled
Right.
into their
Oh, this,
corporate governance.
right.
And they are signing on to this
This is an
consent
agreement.
decree.
Oh, who knows their role in working out the details? Part of it may have been their
Well, I
idea,
mean, they say,
right? It's
oh, we
their
worked with
agreement.
them for so long. That's one of the
Uh-huh.
things,
Yeah.
so many lawyers work for so long. How could you possibly not approve this consent decree? So, that kind of junk, right? It's all in there. It's all in there. But what we ended up doing at the center by bringing up this amicus brief, and then yes, to his credit, Judge Kelly told the parties that they had to respond. And so you have on record responses from the government and Facebook. The government says, nah, 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 we have the right to all that data. Try and stop us. That's the government. And then Facebook says, oh, we thought that under current law, really, they don't have the full unfettered right to that data.
Right.
And so actually, you're kind of crazy.
Right.
Those are two disjointed responses. They do not
Yeah.
match up. They have
Yeah.
different ideas of what they were
Right.
consenting to
Right.
with respect to my concern. That is revealed. That is out there. Go to legalizeprivacy.org, check it out. And yeah, if you want to get involved in the next step, which could indeed, again, I have to consult and figure out procedurally what would be the best way to go with this. This is just this morning, this
Yeah.
opinion, was released. Imagine they're doing this during the coronavirus time. Let's just slip it under the right.
See, that's part of the disturbing thing here. Most people don't realize what Facebook has agreed to.
Yes.
And no one has really covered this story.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to sound the alarm. Help me sound the alarm.
Yeah.
When you guys are here on YouTube right now, I'm asking you, like, share, subscribe, most of all, share. And we got to spread the word about this, that this is going on while everybody's distracted about coronavirus. Coronavirus is serious. Yes, you need to be concerned about it, but we cannot think about it 100% of the time, especially when one of the primary concerns of all, semi-like-minded people right now is that our government is using this crisis as an opportunity to exert authoritarian control. And this is just one thing that's been pending, again, since last October is when I filed this amicus brief. Around December is when we got the responses from Facebook, and I guess in January is when we got the responses from the government and Facebook. And I've been waiting ever since to see, what is the judge going to do? What is the judge going to do? And it just turns out, last night I went and looked just to check, and oh my gosh, there's something coming tomorrow morning. And so I, email my local counsel, hey, there's something coming. Can you send it to me? Boom, that's this morning. So it was pretty nuts, but it's April, it's end of April. So I've been waiting, and here we are in the projected, kind of climax week of all the worst part of the coronavirus. It turns out it hasn't been as bad as they projected, but isn't it funny that it's being released when we've got the worst news on that front?
Odd coincidence.
So they just want to get away with this, and Facebook wants to be absolved. It's not really them, and you're supposed to be sympathetic. And I'm sorry, Facebook, I am not sympathetic with you.
No,
you
see, that's the thing.
You are wimps.
At
Facebook.
YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell notice button, share it to Facebook, and say something at Facebook.
And come to legalizeprivacy.org and help me out. Last time when I did this entirely out of my own pocket. Maybe I have some small donations, but a few $1,000s to help with local counsel is what I needed there. And I want to do something again. It might be bigger, it might be more expensive this time, because it's not just writing an amicus brief, it's actually maybe instituting an action of some kind, perhaps a class action. Benjamin says, where do I sign for this class action now? If there is going to be a class action, what you want to do is subscribe to the blog at legalizeprivacy.org. Just subscribe over there, and you'll be up on whatever I'm going to do next. Next steps have to be contemplated. I need to talk to my public interest litigation friends. But one thing that I did learn already is that in the public interest litigation space, as far as I know, I am the only non-leftist focused on the issue of privacy. So if
Right.
you want a solution for the real effective protection of your privacy through the law, you're not a statist, right? And you're also not an anarchist, right? So I'm not either. I'm for very limited government, but there is a role for a limited government approach to privacy out there. And that's the kind of niche that I say I'm trying to fill, but I'm not one of these marketing people who said, "Oh, let me find a niche that hasn't been filled yet and let me cultivate an artificial interest in this." I have been interested in
Oh
privacy
no, you've long
for
been the
decades
best
and I
legal
just
expert on
got
the
here,
issue. No, no. In my view, you've long been our best expert on the issue of privacy. So
I mean, what I feel I have is I have a theory that can solve a very urgent problem. And I feel like I was lucky to stumble into this because of my particular philosophical orientation combined with the assignment to go, Leonard Peikoff years ago said, go out and check whether there's a right to privacy. And I went ahead and did that. So, those things got me started on the path. I had a wonderful dissertation advisor who allowed me to write a dissertation on the so-called right to privacy. And that framework, being steeped in that framework, when I started to look at this doctrine in the law that makes it so that the government can get warrantless access to this stuff you share with Facebook, that doctrine, when I saw it, I immediately was pretty much able to think of a good solution that is based in the common law, again, based on a philosophy of limited
you were able
government.
to think of a solution. You see, you were lucky, like the guy who discovered penicillin was lucky.
Well, okay, but I mean, point being, there's just a whole bunch of things. It's all of this. What do you call it? Going down the rabbit hole or following the rabbit trail? What is the proper metaphor?
I'm not
I
sure. I think people have been mixing those
I mix
metaphors.
them all the time, but
Alice in Wonderland, it's going down the rabbit hole, and that,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, implies madness.
I
Uh,
do this with so many things, and in so many ways it pays off, because it's always a value-oriented pursuit.
right.
Sometimes it does, all the connections don't seem
Yeah.
obvious to most people, but to you, it just comes naturally. And it's I forget that there's the reticular something or another that's in your brain, that's aware of the things that you've kind of made yourself open to. It's a very powerful thing.
It
So
is.
that's kind of what I give it credit to.
Right. Those are the
So
standing orders we give our mind. Right.
yeah, it's standing orders. You're right. And I don't think it's anything more mystical than that, although your meditation gurus might say otherwise. So it's, meditation is an interesting
Well,
practice.
so yeah, I agree. And so long as it's understood as a form of focus and relaxation, as opposed to blanking out or something even more mystical, um, I'm a big advocate of meditation because
Yeah,
it does
no,
help focus, right?
it
A
has helped me
relaxed,
tremendously.
a relaxed mind is a more efficient mind. When we're in a panic mode, and that has a lot to do with the headlines today. When we're under great stress, fear, or in panic, actual panic, we're not doing our best thinking at all. So meditation, if it can help calm our emotions, which are the main source of subjectivity, right,
Yeah,
can actually serve to focus our thinking as well.
definitely. Definitely. So that is the big news. And we're not actually spending most of the show covering the big news because, again, I've got a limited amount that I can say about it now without knowing what the next steps are. And I can't know what the next steps are until I consult
Right.
with the people in the know.
So
And then
stay
also,
tuned.
yeah.
Same
So
bat channel, same bat time.
yeah,
Stay tuned,
definitely.
folks.
Definitely stay tuned. Stay tuned on my Facebook because I'll probably start certain initiatives there in terms of just everybody showing that they do not consent to this infection by the
Right.
FTC-DOJ virus. And go to legalizeprivacy.org. Please join me in this. At least subscribe, share with your friends if you can't afford to contribute. But if you can afford to contribute, it is going to be put to good use. We're going to do something with this. And I'll talk later about what I'm going to do in terms of Parlay, because Parlay is an alternative competing social network that's up and coming right now. And they are premised on two things, which is that they aren't selling your data, which I don't necessarily object to the selling of data per se, but there is a concern if Facebook is doing kind of icky
Right.
things with your data that you don't like anyway. That's a personal choice. That doesn't have to do with a violation of your rights necessarily, as long as it's in the terms of service. But you might want to choose a network that doesn't want to sell your data or anything like that. So that's a good
Right.
thing. It's an alternative. And then the other thing that I do like about them as well is they say they are unbiased. And again, Facebook has a right, I think, to manage the platform however it chooses, but that doesn't mean you have to like it.
Right.
And so a platform that is both unbiased and doesn't sell your data sounds like a good thing. I'm
Right.
going to start playing with it and see what I think of it. And then
Right.
I'll
I guess I
spread
knew
the
that
news about that
Facebook
too.
was going to share some of my data with advertisers and stuff. They alerted me to that when I
Yes.
joined up. On the other hand, I don't recall reading anything about a government person being in there monitoring their correct use of data.
No. Yeah, not at all.
Something I
Not at
didn't
all.
agree to.
Yeah, no. And again, the language of that order is very vague,
Yeah.
and it allows extensive access to information. That is a word that was in there in the opinion by the judge. So it's okay. There, at least there's a little anchor to hang the hat on. But
Something,
that was, I
yes.
think, the only concession to
Yeah.
my particular concern in the entire thing. Again, I did a pretty rough, fast skimming. It's like, okay, he's talking about his deference. There's all these criteria for deference, and
Right.
that it's like a 5-prong test, and he goes through the 5 prongs. I'm skimming that part. I'm not
Right.
looking at that, right. So I've got to go back and be more systematic about it. But I was just scouring it for any sign
Right.
of sympathy, and that's the one thing that I
Well, but the Bill of Rights isn't very popular these days.
Yeah. So Robert here is joining us over at YouTube. Robert, you missed like the big news already. He says he keeps missing the beginning of the show. He's adding alarms to the iPhone so he doesn't forget. Please do. So
That little alarm button after subscribe. Yeah. It'll
yeah,
note.
the subscribe
Yeah.
thing too,
On
and the
your
little
phone, on
alarm.
your
Oh, the
smartphone,
alarm, you can get the notification.
it's right next to the subscribe
Yes.
thing, and it actually helps too. YouTube counts that as well as shares, views, likes, subscribe, and the little notice, the little bell right after subscribe.
All
Hit
of
that
those things
bell
that you guys can do. I understand that you have to log into YouTube in order to do
to
these
do all
things,
these.
but
Right.
I do ask, please log in, create an account, even if you haven't before. Do help us out with this, because we are trying to get out there and do some more good. So speaking of which, because one of the purposes is to have the super chat toy. That would be fun. Now he says, I don't allow notification on any of my devices. It's so funny. So I've been trying to improve my sleep and turn off everything after 9:30 at night. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll allow notifications during certain time periods and not in others.
Right. Right.
That's one way to go.
It's
It'd be
and
nice if you could program your phone to do it
there's a
automatically.
psychologist who gives advice, says don't put your smartphone next to your bed when it's charging. Put it
Yes.
way far away. When you're sleeping, put it way far away so that you get time away from your phone.
Yeah, no, and
Not a
and
bad
so
idea.
I have this, now standing rule, which is that after 9:30 at night, I am
Right.
not getting into
Right.
the phone. Now, I got distracted because I was filling out some legal document the other day, and it was well past 9:30, and so 9:30 just came and went, and I didn't even realize that it was. And so then it's like nearly 10:30. I'm just, how you mindlessly start opening that device,
Yeah.
and then I realized, I said, oh my gosh, it's nearly 10:30. It's like, boom, so at least I mean, if you're trying to establish a habit like this, something
Yeah.
like that doesn't really count against it. But I tried to set a reminder to give me a reminder not to, be on my phone after 9:30, so that if I
Mm-hmm.
did pick up my phone, the reminder would be in the middle there. But it didn't work. So I don't know. But at least last night I didn't violate. So yeah. Okay. So good. Welcome over here, people who are now joining us late here in the chat room. You will have to watch the beginning of the show, because it is the part of the show that explains the title. Facebook has now been infected with the FTC-DOJ virus. Judge Kelly, the district court judge in the DC circuit, has now ratified and given a like to that infection. And I was going to say even Facebook's self-infection. I mean, they are responsible for consenting. They could have shrugged. Facebook could have shrugged. Now that seems, crazy. Why would Facebook shrug? It's built up this great business and it's done all these things. I'm sorry. You chose. They chose. They chose to be a participant in the next step towards
They
1984.
could have lifted a finger to fight for their users. They did not. When
Yes.
accused of wrongdoing by the government, they came up with this settlement that frankly diddled all of us.
Yes. Yeah. And unprecedented, as far as I understand, infiltration of corporate governance structure.
Yeah. The government stooge, the government crony is going to be there making sure Facebook doesn't misuse information in the future like it did with the Analytica case. So they're going to be there to monitor the use of information. Well, what does that mean?
That means they're going to have to see the
that
information
Facebook is looking at. Right. Right. Really
and
horrible.
So, of course, because I did the amicus brief, I'm sure I'm one of the things that they might want to go look at. So you're going to have
that's why people should
some
post
real
this to
sweet
Facebook.
messages to come look at if you dare come into my private stuff.
Right. Post this to Facebook, people. That would be really good. Ironic.
Seriously, post this far and wide to Facebook. They'll just love it. And you could tag Facebook every time you post this video. It would be fab. And you can tag the FTC and the DOJ.
Yeah, FTC as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Agreed.
Let's do it. Mass protest, right? Talk about, there are ways to engage in civil disobedience that don't require flouting social distancing guidelines. This is one of them. So, okay, speaking of toys,
yes.
I'm, like I said, I'm trying to get this toy of Super Chat. I can't get the toy of Super Chat without your guys' help because I'm over 3/4 of the way towards having the number of watch hours needed to be monetized, which is awesome.
We're getting
I'm
close.
getting there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. Help me. But one toy that Tamir introduced us to last week, which is really kind of fun, is the toy that allows us to play video. And as I told you, what I wanted to do, if we could, Jim, and let me see if I can pull up the requisite link. Oh God, I love when I get emails with funny lines.
Jazz pianist.
Yeah, jazz pianist is the one who turns.
Exactly. It's giving you the technical expertise.
Yes. But I mean, I told you, Tamir is Tamir. And by the way, Tamir has a concert tomorrow night. And I highly recommend everybody going to tamirhendelman.com.
So he's going to make it a regular thing?
He's going to make it
At
a
least
regular.
For the duration?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's always going to be on Saturdays now. He's switched over to Saturday this time. Let me get to. I sent myself an email with a link yesterday. Oh God, why am I getting Donald Trump in my inbox? I've tried to put all those emails from Donald Trump into junk each and every time.
Isn't it crazy? You don't lift a finger for Donald Trump, and I get the mail and I get the emails, and we want you, we miss you, we need you. Don't you continue to support Donald Trump?
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense at all.
It doesn't.
God, where is my link? Did I give you the link?
I don't think so. No. Let me see.
Okay. I could have sworn that I gave.
No. Not
okay.
Messenger. Not
okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to find it. Let me see how I can do this. Sender contains. Okay, that should help me.
It's one of Donald.
Here Trump's. It is. I got it. I got it. Okay, I'm gonna pull up this link, and then we're gonna see if I can share it and play the video. Okay, live. Ended 20 hours ago, the briefing with the task force.
Right.
And
so it was yesterday's COVID briefing with Trump and the task force.
Yes. And so then what I want to do is give us a full screen of it. And then let's see if I can share it over here. And I want to make sure that we can get sound with this as well. Okay, so I want to share the screen. And I want to do this desktop. And we're going to try to share it. We're just going to play with this for a minute, okay?
Well done.
Okay, well, there it is, but you can't hear it, right?
Right.
So why can't you hear it? That's what I need. Okay, click to unmute. Let's go.
Yeah.
Now, what I need to know is whether people can hear this or not. Let me see if I can get another browser up. Okay, I'm going to stop the share for a sec.
Hey, you got that much?
Okay, I did that. So let me go back to, I'm going to just click off the full screen again. Okay, now I'm going to go over here. Were you guys able to hear that? Okay, you were not able to hear it. They couldn't get the sound.
No,
So
I couldn't
that's
hear it either.
okay. Okay, so let me see here. Actually, okay, maybe you just, no sound yet at all, still no audio. Okay, let me see if I can even just do share audio. Why don't we try to do that? Maybe we don't even have to watch him, right?
Huh.
Okay, advanced. We're going to go under advanced. Music or computer sound only. Let's try that. Okay, and now I'm going to try to play it again, and let's see if you guys can hear. Okay, I need to know if you guys are hearing it. You can't hear it at all?
Nope.
Okay, if you can't hear it at all, then there's no way they can. How about there? There, anything?
Nope, still nothing.
Okay.
Oh.
Anything?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have to do something different. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So you're not getting anything?
Not a thing.
Okay, so maybe the only way that I can do that is to switch over an audio source. Let me do that real quick. Okay, here we go. Oh no, that's going to do something horrible. I don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with this, you guys. Oh, this
Okay.
is so sad.
But it was a fun press conference with the task force yesterday, wasn't it? Donald Trump, as usual, is dispensing medical advice. I know I'm not the only person in the world to say this, but I sure wish he would leave it to the MDs to dispense with the medical news and the medical
Right.
advice.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do like the old fashioned way and play you some Donald Trump clip. That's what I will do.
Oh, there we
So
go.
yeah, I'm going to just play it through the phone audio on my iPhone because there's just too much that is funny.
Yeah, it really was a gem, wasn't it?
So what was your favorite part? What was your favorite
My
part?
favorite part was, the bleach might clean you on the inside.
Yes. Yes. So let's give the context to this, right? So he brings up an expert, Bill something or another, right?
Right.
And Bill tells us that I'm gonna turn the volume down and try to
Well, there
find out
actually
where.
was some good news there, wasn't it?
Yes. So Bill tells us.
It does kill the darn thing, doesn't it?
Yes. So sunlight, humidity, and also bleach, and alcohol
Right.
are all enemies of the virus. Alcohol kills it almost instantly. Bleach kills it within 5 minutes, I believe. So these are great pieces of
Right.
information. So afterwards, Donald Trump says, well, maybe there are some medical treatments that you could do with the
He really
alcohol and the
does say
bleach.
that. He really does. He
Which
follows up.
implies you're actually gonna, and he was
Right.
talking about like, putting them into the lungs or something, right? This is
Unbelievable.
bleach and alcohol
Chlorine.
on lung tissues.
Well, we all know from World War I, the Germans used chlorine bleach as a chemical weapon in against the Allied troops in the trenches during World War One.
Right.
Right? One of the horrible gases that the Germans used during World War One was chlorine, literally chlorine bleach. You don't take chlorine or any kind of bleach into yourself, much less into your lungs, where it can really do some horrific damage.
No, you don't
I
do
mean,
that.
a respiratory infection, and he's suggesting, even just the implicit suggestion that the taking it internally could help, is terrifying.
Yeah, no. So there was that. And, I'm just going to
Now
have to,
today he had not wasn't the team, the task force team meeting, press conference. He was just this morning from the White House having another meeting,
oh,
and
wow.
he was asked about it, and he said, "I was just being sarcastic. I
That's
didn't."
not true. If you watch the clip, he was not being sarcastic.
Well,
Not
his
at
line
all.
this morning is that he was just being sarcastic and with a sarcastic questioner. He said,
Okay,
um,
so I'm not being permitted to forward to any particular place. So what I'm going to need, people, is a YouTube link of the briefing, task force briefing from yesterday, so that I can actually forward to some place within it. This is so sad. Um, it's again, I should be able to play this audio. Why am I not able to share my audio through Zoom? Oh, could it be because, okay, I have one more try. I have one more try. Are you ready?
ready.
Here it goes. Sorry for the sausage, everybody. Let's do
Well, it would be better if we heard it from Trump himself.
select microphone. Same as system. Let me try that. Let's try same as system. Can you hear me?
Yes, quite well.
Okay, you can still hear me. And did the quality of the audio change? Maybe. Okay, I'm going to do this. Let me try again to play this audio. I'm going to just try to share the audio and see if we can do anything with this. Okay, music or computer sound only. And I'm going to play a little bit. See if you can hear it, James.
Nope. Nary a thing. Silent. The sound of silence.
So you're not hearing anything.
Nope.
Okay, one more thing. One more thing. Same as system. Okay, try this one more time. Here we go.
Nope. Sorry.
Nothing? You're not hearing anything?
Not a thing. The sound of one
Let's see,
hand
wait.
clapping.
Okay, wait. Oh, okay. No, I have to install something.
Ah. Boo hiss.
Okay. At least I'm getting there. Okay, I'm getting there. I'm gonna get this.
You will.
It says I'm sharing computer sound, but you never heard it.
Never.
Okay. I'm sorry, people, but I'm getting one step closer. And yeah, it's going to have me
And it would
install
have been so
something.
delightful too, because Trump was particularly amusing yesterday in a couple of
Yeah, and we'll have some fun with it. I mean, there were a few things that I wanted to share with you. One, of course, was his clip in which, and you'll be able to find it out there because everyone's making fun of it, where he's implying that you could use alcohol or bleach on bodily tissues as a medical treatment. That is scary. But I don't know if you saw this.
Ingest it somehow or put it in your lungs, all the worse. I mean, my God, bleach is so toxic. No, it's terrifying.
Yeah. No, so if you actually find this clip of the briefing, it was around 40 minutes or so, which was right after this expert gave his presentation. And again, the upshot was that with increased heat and humidity, the virus doesn't stand as much of a chance. The half-life is reduced significantly, et cetera. And then the information about the bleach and the alcohol just kills it right away.
A lot of the left-wing media, creates a giant package deal here, so that any good news that comes out of, because they're hostile to any good news on COVID-19 for political reasons. So it's a package deal. I want to make this clear too, even as we make fun of Trump as he so richly deserves it. The left-wing media, though, creates a package deal. Any good news about COVID-19 is somehow considered to be pro-Trump. And so the poor lady, for example, who was treated with hydroxychloroquine, and she credits it, whatever the side effects may be, and we still need more testing, obviously,
Right.
she credits it with saving her life.
Hmm.
She was ripped. She was attacked personally. And the only way to explain that kind of left wing attack is to see that they would regard any effective treatment or an early vaccine or something like that as bad news because it would confirm Trump's optimism. Now,
Yaron Brook gave a good presentation, I think, day before yesterday. He's been doing a lot of coronavirus themed
mhm,
shows, and
yes,
um,
and
let me
I
see.
really agree with him. This is
Well,
madness shutting down
okay,
the
yeah, yeah.
economy. Yeah.
Okay, no, well, he's not exactly with you on that, and I'm going to be talking with him on Sunday when I have a show with him. That's going to be an interesting
Well,
discussion.
no, I
But
believe that the government should have done something and done something serious all along. I am not one of the, that's again, it's a false alternative. As you pointed out, what we're confronted with is a series of false alternatives,
okay, but I think that initially, again, weeks ago, we didn't know what the hell we were dealing with, but we knew we were caught flat-footed.
right?
Both of those things were
Well, that's
happening,
true. We were caught
and
flat footed.
and because we are in this context of a mixed economy where doctors and hospitals and nurses are not able to protect themselves the way that they should be able to by, for instance, refusing to provide service to anybody who walks in the door. They're not able to do that, James.
Correct.
In
That's
that
true.
context, I think a lockdown is justified for a limited period
Well,
of time right now, and it has
a
to be narrowly
complete,
tailored.
you
Yes,
nailed,
even that.
you see, a lot of the lockdown was completely unjustifiable from the outset because there was no rational relationship to the disease whatever.
No, sure there
Now,
was.
oh, oh, paint in
Huh?
Michigan? Why can't I buy paint in Michigan? Oh, but I can
Oh,
go
no, no, no,
canoeing,
no,
but
no.
I
Okay,
can't go
okay, okay.
motorboating.
Certain, no,
Ah,
no,
but I can't. Let's
certain
see, I can go.
provisions in
I
the
can go.
lockdown. Certain provisions in the lockdown.
See, wait.
Certain
See, that's
provisions.
part of the package deal. We did not need a lot of this
No,
because it was arbitrary from the
you're doing
outset.
all or nothing thinking, James.
No, I'm doing the opposite. I'm saying we could have done something a lot less restrictive than Michigan
Okay, so we
or
could have.
Montana or Texas
Okay.
or
Okay, but what I'm
a
saying.
lot of the rules were simply nonsense. More than that, I think a lot of the rules were based, and this is something we may have a good argument about. A lot of the rules were based on no science or the wrong science.
Okay, but my
For
point
example,
is
being
they
out of
didn't
doors.
have.
For example, being
No,
out
no,
of
of course,
doors.
that's dumb. That's dumb.
Total, complete nonsense
I
from the
agree with
outset.
you on those things. I think that we
So there
agree
were
on those
so
things.
exactly. So there were
But
important aspects of the
a
lockdown that were
rather
never ever
okay,
justified totalitarian.
but a rather broad-based lockdown to flatten a curve right now.
I might even go further. I might say that there was no need for universal house arrest because it would,
Okay, but
it
see
just
that there I think a very limited time period to
again,
get up
I
to
don't
speed.
think we
I
had
don't
the
think that
I
I
don't think
get.
the fear ever justified it,
Okay, I
frankly.
do, and so we'll just have to agree to disagree on that.
It is true.
Let's go back where we were, which was
Okay,
back to the Trump briefing,
sure.
because it's
That's true.
I'm gonna have the whole broad context. I did it all on Wednesday
You
too
did,
on
you
my
did,
show.
you did.
Um,
But to get my two
the
cents in, this is my opportunity.
I know you disagree. I know you think it wasn't
Well,
justified, et cetera.
I
But
think it just went too far. I think we could have had a more restrictive approach, more rational approach that actually was based on science. And all the crap that we hear from
okay,
the
but there
media
wasn't
about
enough
science.
science back when
No,
they were
no,
doing
no. We
this.
already had science about things like being out of doors. Well established science that was thoroughly ignored with these ridiculous orders about not going
To the
okay,
beaches or
to the
something. Yeah,
beaches.
no, I understand.
It's
I
not
understand.
just the
So I agree with you
ultraviolet
on
stuff
those
that we
things.
just
Yeah.
learned. We have known for decades
And
that these kind of
we did
infectious
not have
diseases are spread indoors,
we
and we
did we did
locked
we
everyone
did
up indoors
we
with
did not have the kind of house arrest that they had in Wuhan, for example. Okay, so
where they found dead
there's
people in their homes, right?
yeah, disgusting. So
And we still don't know the
yeah,
wreckage there, the
no,
carnage
no,
there.
no, and we still don't
Whereas
know the carnage in New York, for example.
Whereas in South Korea, they didn't have universal house arrest. They focused
They did a
on the
much we were caught flat-footed here.
we were
Trump failed
completely
us.
caught flat-footed.
Trump failed us. So
Completely caught flat-footed.
now he's trying to supposedly, cover for anyway. So these are
Okay, okay.
the things that I would have emphasized in the
Gotcha.
brief. The things I would have emphasized in I mean, excuse me, in the briefing that he gave, right? If we could play with the toy that I wanted to play with there, which is Again, the silly thing that you're going to go ahead and do those medical treatments. But then also there was a reporter who asked him right after. She says, if, in the summer, the spring and the summer, the virus ebbs, what are you going to do to ramp up and be ready for the reinfection that could happen in the fall, right? So, basically, what are you going to do to make sure that we don't end up in trouble again? And of course, one of the things we're all concerned about that, because we don't want to have a lockdown again, right? We want things to, not be carnage in the streets, but at the same time, not lockdown again, because that's carnage in our bank accounts, which will eventually be carnage in the streets.
Right. And having flattened the curve, we should expect a lot of infections come the new flu season, right?
Well, and there probably will, but again, people are smarter now. So,
well, hopefully
maybe
we'll
not.
have treatments, but
well, and we can all control about whether we get infected by this to a large degree.
Control.
We're learning, so let's all do it wisely.
Yes.
But in any event, so she asks, if it ebbs in the spring and summer, what are you going to do? And he was trying to, first of all, understand her. He made her repeat herself, and then she repeated herself, and she used one word again, and that was very clear. He did not understand the meaning of the word, and Pence had to come in and answer the question and cover for him. And that word is ebb.
Ebb.
He did not know what the word ebb meant. So yes, he did propose that you apply bleach and alcohol to tissues, and he did not know what the word ebb meant. Moreover, when he was then asked about whether our testing was adequate, and that's the Fauci thing, I'm going to agree with what I assume your position is on this as well, Jim, which is, Fauci's been going around, we can't open yet because the testing isn't adequate. I'm sorry, it's too late. The government has had its chance to keep its part of the bargain. It did not get out of the way of the testing. And right now we're going to have to do the best that we can and immediately open up things as soon as possible, because it's been already going on too long, right?
See,
and we know a lot more about this virus now. We know that it is a pernicious, in some ways weirder, turbocharged flu, but we also know it's not Ebola. And so it is really time to get going. And government, you had your chance and you have failed us. So it's time, okay.
Well, we just can't take the other side of the cost, frankly.
No, exactly. But that's not Trump's response, right? So Trump has asked, well, Fauci was on Time Magazine, so-and-so, and he said that testing isn't adequate. What do you make of it? So his response is, and again, you go back to say 44 minutes into the briefing, and you can see this is what I wanted to play for you. We got to get this toy up and running. He says, our testing is adequate.
That's the criminal thing. See, notice, I'm not going to laugh about that. I can laugh about him not knowing the meaning of the word ebb. But when he says that there's been no problem, there's plenty of testing, we've never had a problem with the testing, he's just outright lying and covering up for a cataclysmic failure on the part of the government, of the CDC and the FDA, and it's ongoing.
And the deflections that do not answer the question, things like, we have administered the most tests in the entire world. And then it was funny because then he went on to actually cite in passing the piece of information that is relevant in evaluating whether us having administered the most tests even means anything. And it is the fact that we have the biggest population too, right? So if we have this huge population, the fact that we've administered a whole bunch of tests doesn't mean anything, because the per capita, it's the per capita. And he even hinted at the statistic, our huge population, that refutes his own point. His point was that somehow testing must be adequate because we've administered the most tests in the world. That doesn't mean a thing. He doesn't understand.
Well,
I don't understand statistics,
but not really thinking, is it? It's not.
What is it?
No,
and
then the thing is that we're just now getting the antibody tests, right? The antigen tests that we'll need to know, for example, the mortality and lethality rate of it and how widely it's been spread already. And we're getting some preliminary data that's interesting, but we've just now, I just now got a good antibody test, that doesn't have false positives and false negatives, so that it can be relied upon. And it's just now getting out there. Now, and to begin with, we should have had all kinds of testing, even the testing of the sick, way back in February. like they were, as you point out, in South Korea. They were doing a much big, they
Test
had a
and trace, test and trace,
comprehensive
test and
test
trace.
and trace system,
Yeah.
more targeted, more focused, perhaps fewer tests, but they were on it in February.
Yes.
Where was the United States? We were being delayed by CDC and FDA, red tape, delays, bureaucracy, and regulations. Uh,
Yes. And now we are learning things like in early February in California, somebody
oh, yeah.
died of the virus.
That suggests that, yes,
Weeks
right.
of illness before that.
That's right. People may have been getting it in late January. Here we have a death in, or two deaths, I believe, in early February of this year. And the first death in California was reported death wasn't until late February, almost the end of the month.
Yes. Yes.
So, and if the numbers, you saw the New York numbers, right? They did a study which seems to indicate that almost 15% of the population of New York State has already been infected. Some
Right.
21% of the
Yes. In the
population of
city.
New
In
York
the city.
City. 1 in
Wow.
5 residents of New York City is already infected. If that is true,
Probably the subway air circulation. That's what I'm,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. They've got things like enclosed spaces, you see, where people, large groups of people are close. And
Yes.
that's really where these kind of infectious diseases we've known for decades are spread, is in enclosed spaces. When you go outside, it's like diluting something, right? Like putting something into a swimming pool as opposed to a glass of water.
Yes.
You have the wind and stuff. Forget even the ultraviolet stuff, which they announced yesterday. It's simply less contagious environment to be out of doors than indoors. And so, yeah, being inside an office building, a retail shop, being inside a school, being inside a subway, those are the places where people, and for a prolonged period of time with someone who is shedding the virus, that's what the doctors say.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
no, it's
Yeah.
clearly a regulatory failure.
So our testing has not been adequate in any way, shape, or form.
And
It
Trump is
doesn't.
still covering it.
And so what would, if Trump was rational, what would his response be? He'd say, yes, I understand testing hasn't been adequate. That's on me. And yes, I understand it's also too late to insist on perfect testing before we can open things up. We have to open things up now. And so
Right.
I'm asking people going forward to be very careful. We are, going to do the best we can to ramp up the testing. And here's exactly what we're doing. Instead, what does he do? He talks about how many tests we've administered, that we've administered the most tests in the world. That is meaningless, again, because of the per
Meaningless.
capita figure. The
Right.
second
It's
thing he
not per
does,
capita. It's not when.
right,
It's
yeah,
not the kind
no,
of test, which
yeah,
are
no,
all important here.
right. And the second thing he does is he cites, oh, all the people from around the world, they're calling us because we're the leader on testing. So then he talks about, so it doesn't matter how many people call us and
Right,
say we're the
exactly.
leader on testing.
We
It
do
doesn't
have
mean
great,
our testing is
and we
adequate.
do have great doctors. It
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me that
Right.
people are calling from all over the world.
Well,
to talk
and
to
even
our
are
doctors.
they, who knows? So then he talks about how we've done such a great job on ventilators. And so therefore we're also doing a great job on testing, as if there's transitive property of equality of ventilator
And there's a
capacity.
really important point to be made on this point. It is going where the scream, oiling the squeaky wheel. Just this week, Governor Cuomo of New York is now attending to the nursing home issue. 1 in 5 people who've died from this disease have died in nursing homes. And the governor of New York is just now getting around to protecting nursing homes, getting them the protective equipment, getting them the tests, regulating them so that people can't, he was caught. Talk about a dude who was caught completely flat-footed. No, but they were all over ventilators 3 weeks ago.
And
Governor
ventilators
Cuomo,
aren't even the thing.
exactly, but he needed what did he
And
need?
and
He
then
needed 10 times the number of ventilators he turned out to need. But
and
the government, led by Trump, sure got on it, sent them all kinds of ventilators, more ventilators than they'll ever be able to use.
and the doctors were already learning that ventilators were not really the treatment of choice.
And
anyway,
they're really not the treatment of choice. Once you get on a ventilator, your odds ain't very good.
No.
So they may not be the end all be all of this anyway, right?
Not at all. And so he's talking about these ventilators, and then he's saying, oh, I had these great people working on the ventilators, and I've got great people working on testing, so therefore our testing is adequate. And then then, I mean, he's not answering the question about the adequacy at all. Okay.
At
Then
all.
the other thing, the other deflection is the fake news media. So he says,
Of
oh,
course.
if I had, 2 tests for every American citizen, the fake news media would tell us it's inadequate. He never answered the
The
question.
question.
And this is the sort of thing that I want to play with you. I want
Yeah.
to play, I want to
Yeah.
play the
Oh
clips
yeah, we got
and
to do it.
analyze these. This has all been inspired by 2 things. One is that I used to do this to Obama speeches, but what I used
Right.
to do was actually read language and then analyze. And it would be so much more fun to play the clips. And I want to
Yeah.
do that here and actually have the video of the guy too, and the audio and
Absolutely.
everything. So we're going to do this. I'm going to figure out how to make this work. But then the other thing, it inspired me to do this, of course, that I've been teaching the logic class again.
Right.
And so I've reviewed this material and I'm just,
Right.
eager to
Right.
present
Right.
some of it. So
All his irrelevancies and non sequiturs in
yes,
there.
appeals to authority of
Appeals to
various kinds that
authority.
he's doing.
Right. Right. Right.
It's
Right. And also
everybody's calling us about this, therefore
right.
it
Got
must
to
be
attack
good,
the
right?
messenger. Right. Exactly. Appeal to authority. Attack
Mhm.
the messenger too. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The media lies. Therefore, right. Everything I say is.
I mean, you could say it's like poisoning the well, basically, is what he
right.
does with anything
Right.
that comes from. He'll ask them,
Well.
what network are you from, before
Right.
he answers a
Right.
question.
Right.
And he'll use the fact that they come from one of the fake news media networks to say, basically, you have to dismiss everything that they say out of hand simply
Right.
because they're
Right.
from that network.
Right. 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 That's, really one of the sad things. And again, to get serious here, one of the sad things about this crisis is that it is a crisis, not just, public emergency, but it's also a crisis of credibility. Both sides, I think, have such shattered credibility with the other side that there's really no one who speaks with authority that cuts across party lines. There's no one who can stand up like the grown up in the room and say, this is a believable thing to a credible group of people. You got 40% of the people and 40% of the people and 20% don't even know what's going on, but
Yeah.
they're divided by such a sharp line that one group does not believe anything that comes out of Trump's mouth. The other group does not believe anything that comes out of the New York Times and CNN. And both sides, frankly, have good bases for their position.
Yeah.
The really horrific lack of credibility on both sides.
Right. And so what
You've
is
got
the
Donald Trump
answer?
instead of, I mean, here he is saying that perhaps people should use bleach on their person or in their person. That's terrifying. Instead of leaving the medical advice to doctors, and still worse, he's covering up for the bad testing, the lack of testing. On the other hand, you've got, part of what Trump says is almost true. Trump could cure the disease and then still blame him for it. They, as we pointed out, what was it, months ago, the New York Times had already declared this to be the Trump virus, and you know who to blame for every single death. And that's why Trump has overreacted to the degree that he has overreacted.
Yeah. No. I mean, where I blame him is that he seemed to be so caught up in this, playing nice with the Chinese to make sure that his trade deal was upheld or went through.
Saying nice things about Xi this year.
And he had alerts behind the scenes that there was something wrong.
Oh yeah,
in
no.
Wuhan.
You can imagine the wonderful political ads for the presidents. Political ads for the presidency that are coming this summer. You're going to have Trump ads saying Mr. Biden opposed the travel ban with China early on, calling it racist, xenophobic overreaction. Well, then you're going to have Biden, who's going to be pointing out how ineffective the testing was and how Donald Trump has been talking junk since the beginning of the year and praising Xi.
The scary thing is I could imagine Biden giving these types of briefings and he would be just as inept, if not worse, than Trump. And these are our choices.
Biden was a moderate among the Democrats running, and he's pretty much a nothing. But man, it is really terrifying. The man is not fit to be president. I say that really, really, I do not like the personal attacks that both sides will often do. The guy's so stupid. He said this, he
No.
said that. Everyone can make a slip of the tongue occasionally,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and some people are a little slower than other people. You know, Ronald Reagan wasn't the quickest when it came to a retort. You know, he did get Alzheimer's, but when he was president, I didn't get the idea that somehow the guy's brain wasn't properly working. With
I don't see
Biden,
Ronald Reagan talking about bleach being used on
see,
tissues.
well,
Yeah,
no,
no.
there's a question of judgment.
Yeah.
There's a question of,
And
you know,
never having used bleach to clean anything in your life, maybe.
right, right, and not having the first, like the word ebb, he doesn't know. Like knowing that chlorine bleach is a deadly toxin for
Teach
human
your kids
beings.
the word ebb, okay, people? So if they ever
Right,
become president, they'll know what that is when a reporter asks them
right,
a question about a virus ebbing
right.
in
Well,
the
no, I
summer.
mean, he doesn't know history. He doesn't know, you know, he'll quote without knowing it. He'll quote Mussolini favorably. You know, we all know this tendency that Trump has because he's ignorant of history,
Yeah.
ignorant of language, ignorant of law, ignorant of the effect of bleach on the human body,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yes. Yes. So I have to go pretty quick here, James.
Okay,
I'm sorry, but
no, quite all right.
I want to do one thing, right? Because it's quite possible. And in fact, I think some places are already opening up today. I want to cheer, first of all, that there is this defiant spirit in America against overbearing authority. And the wonderful example that we saw was when de Blasio is asking citizens to rat on their fellow citizens and tell them to text a photo by, to whatever number.
They got the response they deserved. A
They
bunch of
got
pornographic images, memes, jokes, and attacks.
Hitler photos, because that's
Yeah,
exactly what
exactly
this
what it
is, right?
is.
This is
Right.
overbearing authority.
No,
And,
it's terrifying.
I don't always quote Rand, but there's always this quotation from the essay, Don't Let It Go, coincidentally or not, right?
Right.
She said, defiance, not obedience, is the American's answer to overbearing authority.
I have to
And
admit, I was depressed. I thought that the whole country was knuckling under to totalitarianism, and to
no.
see these demonstrations is enormously heartening to me.
Yes, as Gail
I,
says over here in the chat, perfect response gave me hope. Yes, it does. It gives you hope. Now, the other side of it is you do see some irrationality in the
well, they shouldn't
defiance.
have 10 people all together without masks so close
Yeah,
together. They're
no,
obviously flouting even their own personal safety, which doesn't make sense.
exactly.
It's a bunch of package deals and false alternatives going on.
So if you want to
Just as you should
defy,
point out.
you want to stand up, of course, doing it virtually, electronically by flooding these tip lines with what they deserve. That's
Right,
beautiful because,
right.
regardless of whether you think there should be some sort of a lockdown at all, we do not in America believe in having citizens rat on fellow citizens for things like this.
Well,
It turns us into
the
enemies of
Constitution
each
doesn't get
other.
suspended because there's a health emergency. I have been arguing with people who've been wielding the E word, emergency, as if that somehow justifies
Well, okay, so
anything the government wants to do.
so
But constitutional
if
rights become more important in emergencies, not less.
okay, well, so you and I have a disagreement there because I think
Maybe so.
when there is an emergency, then you are
Hmm.
not going by
I guess I
uh
missed all that stuff in the Constitution about emergencies and health crises. And don't worry, you can step on freedom of
okay,
assembly.
okay. So the Constitution says that it's the state's province to deal with certain issues, and so states could do these things. And so it's not unconstitutional for
Well,
states
we
to
have a
do these things
14th
according to
Amendment.
our federal
I
constitution.
believe
Let's
in the
not debate
14th.
that. I just wanted to make one
Okay.
call to people, okay?
Yes.
So I'm cheering them for being defiant, but I'm asking them to do it rationally.
Yes. Yes.
And as
I
you go
agree.
forward, even if you have been stir crazy and this lockdown's
Yeah.
been horrible for you, the lockdown has been too long, please don't go out there and be stupid,
I
because
agree.
we don't want a huge spike in infections.
No.
I don't want
And
you to
take
get
care of
sick. I don't want
yourself,
you
for
to make
gosh
it. Yeah,
sakes.
take care of
Yeah.
yourself, take care of your neighbors.
Oh
This
my
virus
golly.
is
Yeah.
serious. Yes,
Right.
it's just a turbocharged weird flu, but it has been doing a lot of damage to a lot of
Oh.
people.
At
And
least
some of
some
the
people are getting permanent lung and maybe brain damage.
yeah,
At
no,
least some people.
so
It has
be
terrible
rational. Be
side effects.
rational.
Yeah.
And
Don't
that's
hurt
all.
yourself. Yeah, and you could spread it to older people who could die.
Be a
So,
model. Be someone who will be
right.
proud
Right.
of
Right.
yourself when you look back on how you behaved
Exactly.
during
And
this
don't be
time.
foolish. Don't
Yeah.
use their authoritarianism as an excuse to be foolish with your own health and the people you love.
Definitely. So that's my message.
I hear you.
Again, hearkening back to the title of this show. If you missed the beginning of the show, please go back and listen to the beginning, because then I explain what the title means. Facebook has allowed itself to be infected by the FTC-DOJ virus, meaning we have taken a significant step towards Big Brother, towards Orwell's 1984 today. And you can help me fight that at legalizeprivacy.org. I've got a show with Yaron on Sunday, which is the first show
right.
with the Yaron
Yeah.
and Amy show for
Yeah, you're
quite a
getting
long
back
time.
with your own. That's great.
Yeah. And then next Wednesday, I'm going to be speaking with John Allison. He's the
Outstanding.
former CEO of BB&T. I'm going to get his perspective on all this nuttiness. And in addition, his unique, and I think it's got to be one of the best perspectives that could be had out there, about how you would manage a business reopening in the coronavirus
Right.
era. How do
No,
you
outstanding.
manage
Yeah.
that risk and
America's
still
moral banker.
go
Yeah.
to work?
You ask
Yes,
him about it. Exactly.
definitely. So I'm
Right.
looking forward to that. So everybody
Right.
like and subscribe over here, share if you like this show, and I will see you on Wednesday next week, and you, James, next Friday.
Right.
Looking forward to it.
Take care.
Okay, take care, everybody.